So this next part, we'll talk about adding more individuals. So talking more about kind of group situations. So foraging and group life. Some of the questions are: how does a group size affect animal behavior? What role does cooperation within a group play in foraging? And then what kind of information is available to others? So we'll take a look at that. We'll start with group size. We've talked about these guys before, bluegills, from the last test. And what they wanted to do is look at what was the maximum size. Now, these guys will eat invertebrates that are found in vegetation, so they got to kind of stir them up. So group feeding makes sense because you get in there, you start pushing around, and something comes flying out. Flying's probably swimming out, would probably be a better way to put it. You may not get it, but a colleague of yours might. I'm not sure they're colleagues, but another fish might. And that way everybody benefits, because the idea is they'll flush some out for you also. And what they found in this is that the group number was 4. Anything more than that, your ability to catch somebody else's flush was not very likely. So your numbers drop. So 4 was kind of the magic number in group size. Now, cooperation. So here we have chimpanzees. There's some famous movies that one I think I'm going to put up for you. I've kind of been, and I don't know if it's a little gruesome. I'm not sure you necessarily have to watch it. Actually, you know what? I am going to show it to you. It'll probably be the following week. It's in one of the videos that we have. And it shows us well, but it's a video that we were going to probably watch next week of them hunting. Anyway, so we know that there are some populations of chimps that will hunt. They'll eat smaller prey, but they will actually hunt monkeys. And so there's actually 3 populations that do this, 2 that were studied, and they're looking at cooperation. And they found out it kind of evolved slightly different between 2 different chimps. Now, the Gombe chimps, that's the one that Jane Goodall is associated with, and they will hunt monkeys. It's not something they do commonly. And what happens is at the end, when the chimps they will hunt in a group. It turns out after that, they kind of, everybody gets to eat. There's not really kind of any hierarchy or who gets left out. And then on the Thai chimps in another group on the Ivory Coast, these guys, what they found out is as the cooperation increased, it turned out at the end who helped got more food. And so they're trying to figure out why that wasn't the same for the Gombe chimps versus the Thai chimps. And what they think is happening is in the Gombe chimps, hunting by yourself and hunting in a pack was about as equally successful. And so you didn't necessarily need all the others, and yet you had this big, huge amount of meat now that you probably couldn't eat on your own. So sharing wasn't a big deal. With the Thai chimps, on the other hand, hunting by yourself, you weren't very successful. And so the only way to do that was to hunt in groups. And so trying to get people to go hunt with you, the idea was that if you're not going to put out the effort, then I'm not going to let you have any of the spoils. So there is cooperation, but it really keys into how effective the hunting is with and without other chimpanzees. Using the starlings again, here's another study that was done on public information. It's not social learning because we're not teaching you how to do a new behavior. Basically, it's just public information. And what they did is they took a bird and you got all these little cups, and some of the cups have food and some of them don't. And so what happened is the social foragers, they would either be fed alone or fed with a second bird. And sometimes, that second bird would have information about what's in it and sometimes not. So bird two were given either partial or full information. Partial information means that they would know whether there was food in some of the cups, and then full information is they know exactly all the cups that actually had food. So then what they do is release a bird on an empty patch. Birds would leave earlier when paired with a B2 bird. So in other words, what would happen is the bird two that was exposed knew it was empty. And so they would take off and bird one would follow pretty quickly after. And it turned out that bird one would leave if bird two actually knew all the information. So they could figure out very quickly that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, and he's going, I'm going right with him. I'm not going to waste time thinking he missed something. And so they could judge not only where the food was, but they could judge how good the bird they were not copying, that's a term, but they were following, knew the information. So there is this public information. I mean, you think about it, you're hungry and you're at a new place like a fair or something. Fairs are pretty obvious the way they have all the signs, but you go someplace and you're looking for food and you're walking around like, I don't know where you get food here. I don't speak you're in a new city and you don't speak the language. What you do, all of a sudden you see a bunch of people carrying food. You're like, okay, wait, where are they coming from? And then you kind of make some decisions. So that would be public information. What they found, caching we talked about before, and this is hiding food for later. Acorn woodpeckers do this. There's also a lot of wintering birds that live up in the pine forests and stuff that do this. Creepers do this. I'm trying to think of some other birds. It doesn't matter. But anyway, they looked at 6 different birds that do. The magpies do it. I guess there's a list down there. Jays, pretty smart birds. And so what they did is they looked at their ability to cache, because by caching food, you also have to be able to remember where it is. And so what they found is 6 bird species that did this. The more they looked at actually more, but birds that didn't cache or didn't seem to have the ability to cache had a smaller hippocampus than those that did. So they believe that is the part of the brain that has the memory for remembering where food is. And then learning. And it's funny in pigeons. Pigeons are 2 types. They're either producers or scroungers. Producers are ones that'll find food, and the scroungers are just watching the birds and where's the food. So they have this tube apparatus here you can see in the picture. And some of them have food, some of them don't. And so the producers are the birds that figure out how to take the tops off. So when they rip the top open, what happens is food spills all over the place, and then everybody gets to eat. And that's what the scroungers do. Well, it turns out, which is kind of interesting, they did this for a while, and they found out 2 birds in this study actually popped the tops. They're the ones that they were considered to be the producers. So what they did then is they just pulled them out. And they said, okay, let's see what the scroungers do. And they had gotten food from the tube. So, they had figured out there's foods in these tubes. But not a single one of them actually figured out how to open the tube or even tried. And they're finding out is the scrounging behavior in pigeons tends to actually make it harder for them to actually learn. They don't even come up with the ability. So the fact that they're getting rewarded for that, doing absolutely nothing, is inhibiting them to learn how to actually get food on their own. And I think that's you guys with education, but that's some of the students I know. And after offending you, I think we'll just end it here. We'll stop the share and then stop the recording.